Hello everyone, I am Ayush Prasad of the Funtastic Academy. Okay, so today we are going to be investigating a whole new topic. One that you probably haven't thought of before. One that's very interesting. We are going to be investigating what stuff, yes, what stuff itself is made out of. We are gonna be talking about chemistry. Okay, so before we talk about chemistry, let's do the quiz question from last video, which is what angles should the mirrors be in a simple periscope? Answer: ding ding! 45 degrees! That's correct! The answer is 45 degrees. Like this. Okay, now that we've got that covered, let's talk about atoms. Have you ever heard of an atom? Well, an atom is the smallest piece of matter. Wait, what's matter? Matter is the science name for stuff. So an atom is the smallest piece of stuff. Not quite. An atom is, you could say, the smallest bit of stuff that retains its properties. What does that mean? Let me explain. There are different types of atoms, and each type is called an element. There are 118 known elements. So, an atom is the smallest piece of matter that retains the properties of an element. Hey, what does that mean? It means that an atom of gold is the smallest piece of gold that's still gold. An atom of oxygen is the smallest piece of oxygen that's still oxygen. The atom of oxygen is the same oxygen that we breathe. And the atom of gold is the same gold that's in a famous crown. An atom is unimaginably so tiny they can't even say to you how small it is. Like, I can't even explain. It's just bonkers amount of tiny. Bonkers! But atoms are the smallest piece of matter, period. They can be broken down into several different parts. Let's look at them. Okay, over the centuries, people had different ideas about what atoms look like. And these ideas are called atomic models. The first person to say atoms exist was a guy named Democritus. And he thought that atoms were shaped like this. Yeah, he thought there was literally just a single atom particle. And people used to think this idea was rubbish because back in those days, people thought the world was made out of earth, water, fire, and air. And they thought this idea was just plain rubbish. But then, two people, John Dalton and Antoine Lavoisier, found out that this idea wasn't rubbish, and in fact it was pretty useful. See, Lavoisier found that many substances, most famously water, can be made out of atoms. He found that water is just a mix between two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. Okay, but this is actually not how atoms look like. We need to get there in a few steps. And the next major step towards what atoms actually looked like was a man named J.J. Thomson. Okay, so J.J. Thomson discovered the electron, which is a tiny part of the atom. We talked about the electron in the electricity video. Now, one Friday, J.J. Thomson was playing with a very sciencey tube called a cathode ray tube. And he found out that the cathode ray tube glowed. And he thought that glow was caused by some particles. And he used magnets to weigh these particles and found out that they were weighed much less than the lightest atoms. So what did he conclude? He concluded that these particles, the electrons, were present in every atom. Every atom had at least one, and most of the time, many more electrons. So he thought that the atom was a cookie, and this cookie is the main part of the atom, and the electrons are the chocolate chips. So he thought it looked like this, but we're still not even close to the present day understanding of atoms. That would require another major step, the discovery of the nuclei by Ernest Rutherford. Ernest Rutherford was a New Zealand scientist, and back in the early days, he was playing catch with a gold sheet of paper. Only he wasn't playing catch with a ball, he was playing catch with alpha particles, which need a whole nother episode. Okay, anyway, he was finding alpha particles at the gold sheet. Now, he thought that the alpha particles would just pass through the gold sheet. They would just like go around the chocolate cookie. But some of them bounced right back. And so, what did he conclude? He concluded that instead of the electrons being embedded into the center of the atom, the electrons orbited a piece called the nucleus. And this nucleus was where most of the matter of the atom was. Okay, but is the nucleus just one particle? No. Rutherford found out with the help of his student, James Chadwick, it was made out of protons and neutrons. Electrons are negative charge, protons are positive charge, and neutrons don't have any charge at all. So at this point, we're getting kind of close to the current model, but we're still a few steps away. And those last steps would be taken by a man named Niels Bohr. Okay, Niels Bohr revolutionized the understanding of atoms. Instead of placing all the electrons in a single orbit, he put the electrons in different energy levels. What does that mean? Let me explain. So imagine that the electrons are living in a hotel, the Grand Atom Hotel. And each floor of the hotel has a different number of rooms. This floor has 2 rooms, this floor has 8 rooms, and every floor above those have 18 rooms. The electrons are actually very afraid of height, so they always want to go to the lowest floor possible. But if all the rooms in the floor are filled, they have to go up to the next floor. And each floor is a different energy level for the electrons to live in. But if the electrons have very lots of energy, they can go to a higher level. And then it will release some light. But if it has very little energy, it will go down of level. Okay, that may sound like a simple model, but it changed the understanding of atoms. Because now the electrons aren't orbiting in just one line. Instead, this is one orbit for the electrons on the second floor, and then another orbit for the electrons on the 8th floor. Kind of like the solar system. There are 9 orbits, one for each planet, and yeah, that includes Pluto, and each. And if you have energy, you can go into your spaceship and go into another higher orbit. So, like that. Niels Bohr's models revolutionized our understanding of the atoms. Today we have the quantum model, which is so complicated that it deserves a whole nother series about quantum mechanics. But Niels Bohr's model is still pretty accurate. I'll see you next video when we talk about the time when a Russian scientist decided to take every type of atom and put it in a big list. Stay tuned. Okay, but am I forgetting something? Yes, the quiz question. I nearly forgot that. Okay, so the quiz question is simple. What scientist discovered the electron? I will give you the answer in the next episode of Chemistry.